So we just wrapped up the 2024 NHL All Star Draft, and I wanted to give some thoughts about the entire program, the teams, the picks, and some of the other extra things that we had seen from the show as well. Starting out pretty much with the teams. So this is Sportsnet, who tweeted it all out after the picks were made. You have yourselves Team Hughes, captained by Quinn and Jack. Celebrity captain is Michael Bublé, and the assistant captain is Elias Pettersson. They made their picks in this order: Kucherov, Demko, Kyle Connor, Brady Tkachuk, Jesper Bratt, Cam Talbot, Brock Boeser, JT Miller, and Frank Vatrano. Next up, you had Team Auston Matthews with Justin Bieber and Morgan Rielly. They selected William Nylander, Mitch Marner, Jake Ottinger, Clayton Keller, Matthew Barzal, Shesterkin, Forsberg, DeBrincat, and Vinny Trocheck. Nathan MacKinnon, alongside of Cale Makar and Tate McRae, selected Crosby, Alexander Georgiev, Kirill Kaprizov, Sebastian Aho, Tom Wilson, Jeremy Swayman, Travis Konechny, Elias Lindholm, and Oliver Bjorkstrand. And finally, you had Team McDavid with Will Arnett and Leon Draisaitl, selecting Connor Hellebuck, David Pastrnak, Rasmus Dahlin, Robert Thomas, Sam Reinhart, Sam Bobrovsky, Boone Jenner, Nick Suzuki, and Tomas Hertl. Now, before we get into some of the extra stuff I wanted to talk about, let's just go over the program itself, because if I'm going to be honest, this format and the style of a program they were trying to make, I thought it was pretty cool. Like, I liked the celebrity captains getting involved in the discussion. I liked the fact that we did hear some of the conversations going on with the players because they all had microphones, but that was a double-edged sword, because all in all, I feel like the program, despite being a cool idea, was very messy, and I think having all the microphones on at all times for like the first half hour of the entire show really disrupted the flow, because you'd be listening to a player talking about a guy, and then all of a sudden you'd hear somebody else talking about another guy, and they're completely off the frame, so you don't know who it is that's talking about stuff. It was really jumbled all over the place, and add to this the entire element of the hosts going out there and doing their thing. No disrespect to David Amber and John Bucigros, but man, Bucigros just could not shut up. Like, my gosh, was I the only one getting annoyed with how often the guy was like interrupting the players' interviews and like shouting into the microphone, completely disrupting the flow? Like, at the very least, David Amber was receptive to the vibes in terms of being able to, like, you know, shut up at times, let the players talk, let the celebrity captains talk, not try to insert himself into every brief moment possible. Like, I think the hosting job could have been a little bit better, but at the same time, you know, there was a format they tried to follow. I will say the one critique I do have of the format is just how much they were trying to talk to the players in the middle of the entire draft, asking them questions about their season, asking them about how it feels to be, like, in this position. It was really weird, you know, because, like, there was a good balance of fun and vibes going on. A lot of the players just kind of chilling out, talking about their teammates, talking about the guys that they want to draft, and then all of a sudden they have to answer a question about how they're doing this season. Like, they tried to balance out the fun and the serious hockey talk, but the serious hockey talk, I felt, was just kind of a drag, because once players start to get into that monotone nature of talking about their seasons, then you're kind of lost there. And you could also tell, like, this is an extra element. I don't think it's too important, but it is worth noting that this was definitely, like, a sober thing. In prior draft years where we had seen the All-Star Draft going down, you would totally tell that the players were not completely sober, and because of that, there was a lot more fun and it was entertaining. Like, remember when the Sedins were not on the same team? Remember Ovechkin talking about how he wanted a car? Like, stuff like that. You could tell the players were not totally in hockey mode, you know? They weren't willing to go out there and talk about their seasons or answer questions about the progress of their team. They were just going out there having a good time, and I feel like for this 2024 All-Star Draft, they tried to give that good time vibe, but they balanced it out a little bit too hard with hosts trying to ask them questions about things that didn't really matter in this moment. Like, Quinn, Hughes, Jack, Hughes, Bublé, and Pettersson are all discussing about their draft picks, and you can hear it on the microphone. It's cool. I don't want that to be interrupted by an interview with Jeremy Swayman talking about how he's been good this year and how excited he is to be a part of the All-Star event. Like, I don't know, it was a good idea on paper, but it just didn't really work out too well, especially with the production issue of having every guy on the podium having microphones that you could listen into 100% of the time. It was kind of confusing, but at the same time, it did provide some good moments, like the Brock Boeser conversation. Because after the Vancouver Canucks, or not the Canucks, Quinn Hughes selected Nikita Kucherov and Demko and all these guys with their first few picks, you could start to hear them debating whether or not they would go with Brock Boeser next. And before, I believe it was the Brady Tkachuk pick, you could hear Quinn Hughes asking his other co-captains, hey, do you think Brock will be mad? Because I think, you know, it's a pretty deep cut nowadays, but Brock Boeser was always known as Mr. Sensitive, quote-unquote, in the Canucks locker room. So it is kind of endearing hearing Quinn Hughes asking his guys, hey, do you think Brock's going to be mad if we don't pick him? And then they immediately took Brady Tkachuk afterwards. There also were a few other conversations about the Canucks at the event. You had Quinn Hughes, like, around the halfway mark, pretty much saying, like, no matter what happens, we're going to have 5 Canucks, and we could trade for JT Miller if we need to. So this was the plan heading into the All-Star game. And I get it, you know, there are actually 6 Canucks here. They didn't have Elias Lindholm on their final team. He was picked up by Tate McRae and Nathan MacKinnon. But I mean, Quinn Hughes had that idea. 5 Vancouver Canucks on the team, and they ended up getting it done with the OG 5, Pettersson, Miller, Boeser, Hughes, and Demko. Also funny to note that Tate McRae, the pop star who is a part of Team MacKinnon, I don't know if y'all listen to Greedy, but it's a pretty good bop. She is from Calgary, so the fact that she was cheering for her Flames and saying, yeah, like, he got traded from my Flames and now we're taking him for our team, come on down, Elias Lindholm, I did think that was pretty sweet. So nice to see Lindholm getting the love in the ways that he did, but there also were a few extra things to talk about in regards to Vancouver and Brock Boeser. Starting out with the not legit pick, because Brock Boeser was taken by Quinn Hughes at the end of the 7th round, but because of the rules stating that all the goalies had to be drafted by the end of the 7th, the Canucks had to send Boeser back, and it was so funny. They ended up taking Cam Talbot, but because it was a snake draft, they had the 8th pick in the very next slot, so they took Boeser then. There also was this idea going around asking why were the Canucks not going and taking their guys right away? And this was a really interesting thought that completely contradicted with the Auston Matthews-Justin Bieber pairing. You had Matthews taking Marner and Nylander at the top of their draft, plus you've got Morgan Rielly as the alternate captain, so you had 4 Leafs already on that team right away with Justin Bieber. Questions were kind of going, why are the Canucks not doing their own thing and getting their own guys? Well, you got to go out there and think about it. They took friends, they took Brady Tkachuk, they catered to Jack Hughes, they took Jesper Bratt as well, so there definitely were connections with the picks. But also, I wanted to talk about these ideas too. You had Daniel Wagner saying this on Twitter. Honestly, Quinn Hughes not picking all the Canucks in these early rounds only increases my confidence in the strength of the Canucks room. Pretty much saying that, yeah, you know, there isn't any insecurity here. Even if the Canucks don't take Miller or Brock at the start of the draft, they're still confident enough in their guys and they're believing enough in the team that they have that they can say, all right, well, let's just go out there, take our guys, take Brady Tkachuk, take Jesper Bratt, and then we'll swing around to Brock and Miller at the end. And then you had yourselves Wyatt Arndt saying the opposite, saying the Canucks not drafting their guys is making me irrationally annoyed. Like, okay, I get it, you know, it was kind of frustrating for sure, but at the same time, I do agree more so with Daniel's opinion that the Canucks not immediately jumping to all of their guys says a lot more about the maturity of that team and their bonds than not, you know? Like, not to disrespect Toronto, like, they wanted to go out there and take their guys, of course, it's their hometown team, it's in their own arena, the fans are going crazy, it's a good time, right? But for the Canucks, they had themselves a few obstacles to go through to get their guys, and ultimately, they missed out on one of them, Elias Lindholm, but who knows, maybe Captain Quinn is going to try to make a trade, maybe they send somebody else over, but for now we wait for tomorrow's skills competition to commence, and then we'll see what exactly happens with each of these guys and their talents. So, thoughts in the comment section below about the All Star Draft programming that we saw here on TV. I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.